The content you're about to enjoy comes from the archives of The Best You. We're devoted to the very best in personal development. With a magazine and resources dedicated to inspiring and changing people's lives, at The Best You, we work with the world's leading writers and trainers on the evolution of the self, and people whose journeys have been affected by their work and words. For more information, go to www.thebestyou.co.
It's an absolute privilege to be here to chat to you about our belief systems and how they in turn impact our cellular chemistry. The book that I wrote is called Trash Talk, and it's fundamentally to do with the negative dialogue that we all have from time to time, and the subconscious scripts that keep coming backwards and forwards and returning to help us make the same errors, the same mistakes, reoccurring thoughts on a day-to-day basis. And all those things can actually impact us from an early age and can impact us as we move forward in life. Part of that process is to understand that inside of us all is a heroic self trying to do the very best that we can. It's always got a little voice. It's always trying to get out. But sometimes we'll go, and we're not having that. Now, when I was young, I grew up in Singapore, and for whatever reason, my parents decided that we should come back to the UK for a better climate. Come back to the UK, we came back to Manchester for a better climate. We came back when it was snowing in December. Now you need to understand that I'd gone to school with Australians, so I sounded like an Australian. So we came back to Moss Side. It was a relatively rough area back then, and going back to a rough school. So my parents thought what we should do is prepare you for that in December, short trousers. Then they decided that I should have a haircut that looked like I was an extra from Peaky Blinders. And then, just to add insult to injury, doing their very best, they gave me a blazer which was designed to ensure that I wore it right through into my 20s. It was big. And so I went to school sounding like an Australian, with looked like a Batman cape on, okay, with a haircut that wasn't good, and the only thing that was missing was business cards that I could hand out to the school bullies and say, bully me. That was the only thing that was missing. But to be fair, the bullies, they were kind. They gave me two options. Option one, we will kick your ass as soon as you come out of school, or you can try and run for it. I chose running for it. Of course, the conclusion was exactly the same. It was just 10, 15, 20 minutes down the road. You see, my heroic self decided not to be heroic. It decided to run away. And that was interesting because I created a subconscious script in my head, which then started to impact me for years to come. So I would avoid conflict. I wasn't very confident. I certainly lacked that sort of self-esteem component, and most definitely I didn't believe in myself. And that subconscious script kept on repeating time and time again over years. And that was a problem, because inner heroism, whether it doesn't matter where it comes from, always starts with something. Let's show of hands, has anybody here heard of a park called Postman Park? Okay, well that's interesting. It's actually in London. Now Postman Park is about 5 minutes from St Paul's. It's a small park, and in there is a mausoleum from the Victorian age. And along the walls, you'll see ceramic tiles. On the ceramic tiles is recorded acts of heroism from children who were 8 all the way up to 70 or 80 years old. These individuals all gave up their lives. So, for example, in 1899, a lady called Mary Rogers was on the SS Stella, which was a steamship that was coming from Guernsey to Southampton. It hit some rocks. Mary Rogers gave her life jacket to another passenger who couldn't swim. And you may say, well, that is heroic, except she too could not swim and perished. That inner heroism, when I read these stories about Postman Park 3 years ago, I started to think about the inner hero that we all have inside of us that's whispering to get out. And get out is what it wants to do. But how does an inner hero start to come about? Well, it all starts with a thought. Because those people, when they woke up, certainly from Postman Park, weren't thinking, I'm going to be a hero today. And what does that mean to you? It could be standing up for a bully. It could be leading a relationship. It could just be expressing yourself, being who you really want to be. And that is a reoccurring theme over the years, that when I'm speaking to people or in workshops or coaching, that starts to happen time and time again.
For complimentary resources from my book, my complimentary e-course, The Power of the Question, or recommended reads, go to www.thequestion.com/resources. For more information on my coaching or mentoring, go to www.bernardo-moya.com.
Well, on a daily basis, we have 70,000 thoughts. Already, you're ahead of the game. All right, so you're on a kind of level like this. There must be loads of thoughts going through your head. And there are 3 types of thoughts that we have. The first one is about things. So, oh, that's a nice bunch of flowers. It's a thing. Other people, she makes my heart beat. And about ourselves. So this morning, I'm looking around. You obviously looked in the mirror this morning and went, ding dong. Wash out well, here I come. All right? So we have those 3 categories of thought, but in reality, they're all actually combined to how we interact with the outside world. And that's quite important to know, because that interaction between us and the outside world determines a lot of different things. So, if we have a thought, where does it go? It's not neutral. So in our body, we have 100 billion neurons. A neuron is basically a transmission and receiving mechanism for our bodies. And that's kind of interesting to know, because a thought doesn't stay in our heads. It goes through our whole ecosystem. And that whole ecosystem is important to realise, because every single thought has an impact. Now, some less impact than others, and as I go through and talk this through with you, you'll start to see that actually it impacts our whole body. Now then, these neurons, they have to be transmitted through our body. And how does it do that? Well, it goes through networks. We're full of networks in our body. And so this might be interesting for you to know that there are more neural connections in the human body than there are stars in the galaxy. That's a lot of neural connections. And when you start kind of realizing about all those kind of different components, you then start saying, if I've got a thought and it's been transmitted by a neuron and it's going to be connected to all these different networks, what's happening inside of me? Now, you know, and I would like a show of hands, has anybody felt fear? Yes, you have. All right, we've all been there, right? Or been nervous, maybe for a date. Show of hands, have you got those butterflies in there? I don't know what you're smiling at. You don't know how many dates you've been having. You know, there's a big smile there. All right. Now, the key thing here is that when you've got all these things, these thoughts going through your body, it starts with a thought. That's the T there. And what happens is the thought starts to transmit in a bi-directional communication system in our body. It just doesn't go one way. It goes many ways. And it doesn't just hurt. If you've got fear, it doesn't just stuck in your stomach or your heart. It'll go to your endocrine system. It'll go to your stomach. It will go to your sexual organs. It goes everywhere because it's communicating. And how do we know this to be true? Because any medicine that you care to mention that you've taken, it will have a notation on the side of the prescription and say, these are some of the side effects. Why is that? Well, it's because some of the side effects that we're talking about, it may cure a migraine, but it will have a negative impact on another part of your body. And that's why medicines, the stronger they are, the bigger the side effects that you have inside of you. And that's stunning to realize, because it means that we are, well, any kind of medicine, anything you take into your body is having an impact on everything that's inside of you. And that too has an interesting impact. Now, a thought, any thought that you've had, it gets connected to an emotion. And that emotion, I want to imagine, there's a chemical response, and the chemical response is called a neuropeptide. And that neuropeptide creates a movement through our biology, and it creates and triggers different hormones. So if you're in a happy place, right, you're going to get oxytocin, you're going to get endorphins, you're going to get dopamine coming through with you. If it's a negative emotion, which is a toxic element that comes into your body through the neuropeptides, what happens is you are most definitely going to feel adrenaline and cortisol. Now, that is a fight or flight mechanism. But of course, on a day-to-day basis, if you've got a bully and a boss, you can't run anywhere because you are worried about losing your job. Or if you've got a relationship you want to break up from, that's a problem for you too, because you can't run away. And so all these things can stick inside of you. And what are they doing? Well, positive stuff is enlivening you. It's creating a happy state. In this environment here, there's a lot of positive energy. But if it's a negative thought, if it's trash talk, if it's negative dialogue, if it's robbing you of your inner self, it stays. And that starts to impact your cellular chemistry. Now then, what does that actually mean, this cellular chemistry? Well, our chromosomes are genetic building blocks. At the end of a chromosome, you have what's called a telomere. A telomere is really important. It's a little buffer. Just think about it like a shoelace. At the end of a shoelace, you've got a hardened plastic bit, right? Now, imagine if it starts to wear away, the whole genetic strand starts to unfold and starts to be damaged. So the telomere creates for us a situation where it protects our chromosomes. What impacts the telomere? Well, there's a thing called telomerase, and the telomerase is fundamentally an enzyme, and that protects that chromosome and nourishes it. And so if you're in a place in your life, if you're eating well, if your environment is happy, if you're listening to really cool music, if you are surrounding yourself with very positive people, then that telomere, and we know this to be true through research, it grows. What's the benefit of growing? Well, your immune system is awesome. All right, there is nothing that you can't do. You're in a positive place. And not only that, and this is a plus, okay, the longer the telomere, okay, the longer you live. I don't see any downside of being positive and removing this negative dialogue, and look if you're in a hero.
For more information on collaborating, partnering, sponsoring, supporting, or speaking at any of our events, or finding out more about our legacy clubs, go to www.thebestyou.co. If you're interested in finding out more about the amazing content we have, please go to www.thebestyou.online and get your 14-day free trial now.
On the other side of the coin, if you are negative, you surround yourself with negative people. If you're putting crap inside your body, it shrinks the telomere and it doesn't grow. And it means that your chromosome is more likely to be injured and damaged. You see, we may have genes, but it is our genetic expression. We can be anything that we want to be in true terms, because we can change that to what we're thinking. Not the trash talk in our head, not positive thinking, but rewriting the subconscious script. My subconscious script, which was, it's okay to be bullied. It wasn't for years later that I rewrote that script and changed my life. And around here, around this world, and probably in this audience, I know for a fact, okay? All right, so we heard yesterday at speech, changed her life, okay, because she changed some subconscious scripts after a disaster, after a massive tragedy. And here, each of you, your own way, will have had little battles to fight, and sometimes won them. And when that happens, you will have felt a lifting, and that lifting releases these chemicals into your body, and then guess what happens? You're telling me it's growth. And so there is no idle thought. There is no idle emotion. And so all this stuff going on inside our heads, and then, it impacts our mental health, our heart, our stomach, our back, our sexual health, our emotional well-being. Creates, for us, skin problems, all those kind of components, right? And when you have those, you have to track them back. And you track them back to the reoccurring thoughts you have. And the reoccurring thought is linked to your subconscious scripts that you've been building up over time. And that's a stunning piece of knowledge to have. Now then, why is this important? Well, because last year, would anybody like to shout out a number in 2018? How many prescriptions were written for antidepressants in the UK?
3 million.
3 million. Excellent. It is a great answer, but it is the wrong answer. Okay, any others? How many? 90 million. Not far off. It's 63 million prescriptions. 1 in 6 people in the UK report in a week saying that they are feeling some kind of anxiety. And that is stunning. 1 in 6. 1 in 6 in this room. Okay, not this room, because this is a positive room, okay, and it's good energy. So maybe the people outside, I get that. All right, that's a different story. 4.5 million people in this country, all right, are on regular dosages of antidepressants. Worse still, 17,000 teenagers in the UK are suffering from antidepressants, on antidepressants. Worse still, could it get any worse? 2,000 primary school children. That is stunning. Why? It's because we see the world and it's not being regurgitated. It's in this script. It's all this stress and pressure because of the perceptions that we feel. So what is the answer? Well, you've got to test your perception. Just look at the world around you and say, do you know what? Is it really that big, that problem? Is it really that small? Is this thought in my head the true thought for what's going on? Remember, there are no neutral emotions or thoughts. There's not. It's not a zero. It's either one or one on the other. It's a positive or a negative. And it's going somewhere. And if it's a reoccurring thing, then you're just expanding it and impacting your health and your well-being. You've got to remove trash talk from that. I mean, why would you want that? That doesn't make any sense. It's not for you, it's not for other people. So just take it away. Let it go. Go and let it enjoy itself somewhere else, but not in your head and not in your body, and certainly not in your enzymes or your genetic code. One other thing you can do, you can buy my book, attend a workshop, you want to. It makes sense. Okay, A2, it's cheaper than the store out there. And for me, and this is the reason that really matters to me, find your heroic self and just the small battles and wins that you want to do. And that heroic self means different things for different people, all right? Whatever your heroic self is, embrace it. And it doesn't matter what it is, but find your heroic self. All right, guys, thank you very much.
For more information, go to www.thebestyou.co.